in Genesis chapter 39. Title, whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. And Lord, as you would put this, I call him a boy, he turns into a young man, becomes a weapon in your hand against all the lies that this devil would throw and all the lies of the world that we still see all these thousands of years later. Here he is before us. Use his life, use his story for your glory, and for us, Lord, that whatever we do it all for the glory of God. What a life worth living. As David would say, in this life will soon pass. Only what done for Christ will last. And Joseph left a lasting impression, and may we do the same in your name. Amen. So we start with whatever you do, do it for the glory of God, and we're going to see him in tasking. And this task that he's been given is going to be working, but you might be the ball field, it might be the schoolyard, it might be the ministry, it might be things that God has you on the school ground. So we start with Genesis 39, verse 1 and 2, meant for comparison. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, remember, betrayed, sold by his brothers, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. What a comparison that we start with is that here he is, sold, betrayed by my brothers, doing my father's will. That study's online. And I come here and I am sold again, and now I'm brought into this house. And yet here's the comparison, because none of us would have chose this. None of us would have chose this in our lives. Lord, take me and put me in a place that I lose my free will. Put me in a place that someone else controls my destiny and controls my livelihood and dictates what I will do from the moment I wake up to the moment that I go to bed, if I even get sleep and these type of things. And here he is. He's put into this place that he would not choose. But notice, the Lord was with him. Verse 2, the Lord was with Joseph and he was successful. We're going to talk about contentment here in a minute about Joseph's contentment, but I just want to make this point, and it's a common point, but this is what we come here to be reminded by God over these things. I will take the presence of God in the most hardest and horrible circumstance over distance and separation from God in what the world would consider and give all the pleasures of the world. Joseph has the presence of God, and the presence of God will be over and win over anything that the world can give and bring to us. And here he is, that he could be, if anybody, hey, it doesn't pay to serve God. And maybe you can feel like that. I felt like that. I've been there. All I get from serving God is pain. I served my father. I ended up betrayed by my brother. Why would I come into this Egyptian's house as a slave and serve him? I'm not going to be a good worker. I'm going to be disgruntled. I'm going to be complaining. I will have an attitude, and when people come around me, no one will want to be around me. And yet what we see here is that this young man, age 17, we're told, was sold into slavery. 30 is when he'll get out of prison. He's going to spend at least 2 years in prison. So how long he's in Potiphar's house, we don't know, but we can say he's in here at the age of 17. And so here he is at the age of 17. He's in this place, and yet he still chooses to serve the Lord. You know why? Because God's with him. I think he understands bad attitude, disgruntledness, the presence of God flees. Lord, here's what you have me, and I'll be saying it here with contentment. Contentment is not getting what you want. Contentment is wanting what you get. God, this is what you put me in. I believe that all things go through your hands first. And so this is the situation. Therefore, I'm going to lean into this situation for all that it is. You tell me to show up for work tomorrow. I'm going to show up for work tomorrow. I'm going to serve you, and I'm going to give you all my life, and I'm going to serve you well. And listen, Christian, and I'm not going to caveat young people, because this thing that we see next with Potiphar's wife, it knows no age. Maybe we say it's a little harder because here Joseph, he's a young man. It knows no age. Temptation knows no age. Satan does not respect age in anything when it comes to temptation. But what I want to say about this is, as we look at this young man's life, this is where his victory began. Not when we get to, here comes Potiphar's wife, lie with me. His victory began here, that he was faithful in the little things. He was faithful in this thing, that I'm going to be obedient even in the work. Even in a place I don't want to be, I'm going to serve you even though you just imprisoned me. This is where God has me. This is what I'm put in this situation right now, and I will bring you whatever I do it for the glory of God. And that is the passage that we have, 1 Corinthians 10:31. Therefore, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Colossians 3:17. And whatever you do in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. What a story and what a man we have before us. And what makes him special? What makes this young man so special? Simply, he loves his Lord. That's what the specialness of this boy is. When I say to you, David, I think there's a couple things that jumps in your mind. This is what I know David as. When I say to you, Joseph, what are the first thing or two that you think of? Right? Potiphar, famine. Here's what's amazing about this young lad. He's in the Hall of Faith, Hebrews chapter 11. You would think he'd be in the Hall of Faith for the faith that he had, for, believing the vision that was given him of the sun and the moon and the stars. You'd think he'd be in the Hall of Faith of how he stood as a young man and withstood the temptation that was thrown against him. You'd think he'd be put into the Hall of Faith for those type of things. Here's what he's put in the Hall of Faith for. Hebrews chapter 11:22. By faith, Joseph, when he was dying, made mention of the departure of the children of Israel and gave instruction concerning his bones. He told all the descendants to follow, when I die, you take my bones and you carry them out of Egypt and you take them into the promised land. Because God has made a promise. He has given me a promise. He has given me a vision. And this is a key for us in victorious Christian life, is we never let go of the vision and dream that God has given us. A word, a vision and dream. It's just a word that God has given us, whether it came in a vision or dream. God will speak a word to you in the middle of the night in your heart, whatever it may be. But he would not waver. You gave me a dream, a vision that I will be used greatly by you. You've gave us, the nation of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, that you promised that we will outnumber the stars of the sky. You said you will give us this land, this promised land. You said you will do this great thing through us, in which we know comes the Messiah. And therefore, all that we read of him, his greatest step of faith is, I know, even after I'm dead, however long it takes, you're going to fulfill that promise that you gave, and that's where I want my bones taken back to. What an incredible young man. This incredible faith that he has here as a man in the Hall of Faith. And I believe this is where his victory began, that we're going to read, which many of the world will say it's impossible to withstand, or they'll have these excuses, but not this man. And look at verse 3. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand. So again, we have this, whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. He's prospering. He came with the attitude, even in the place that he didn't want to be. And hey, you know what? We're going to read a story, a bunch of servants in this house. We're going to read a story of a Potiphar's wife. We're going to read a story of one of the strongest, most influential man in Egypt, Potiphar himself. Guess who was the freest man in that house? It was the slave, Joseph. Potiphar's wife surely wasn't free. We know her story. I think Potiphar was married to his employment, his job, and these type of things. Those servants, we can see they disrespect the Hebrew in the home. The freest man in this story is the one who was a slave. Verse 4 and 5. So Joseph found favor in his sight and served him. Then he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had he put under his authority. So it was from the time that he made him overseer of his house and all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. What a prosperous young man. Employers should fight to hire Christians. You know, we should be the greatest workers in the workforce. So maybe if you haven't achieved that, God's giving you a little reminder and don't matter how poorly you're treated, and even if you're not getting paid accordingly in these, that you work as unto the Lord and let God take care of that. You can still send your resume to move out, but you work as unto the Lord. And I can think of some, employment situations when I was at the airport and stuff like that. And, I wanted to just tell my employer in the annual review, you're being blessed because of me. It says it right here in the scriptures. I didn't think that would go well, but I think there's a place for us that we simply come like we bring a blessing into the workplace, and I think you're thinking of it right now. This is true. But here, back to the prosperity of Joseph. Here's what a prosperous Christian is not gets what they want. A prosperous Christian wants what they get. Who controls our day, our moment, our very being? Lord, I want what I get. What you bring to me, this is what I will do. This is what you have put before me, and I will be content. 1 Timothy 6:6, now godliness with contentment is great gain. I said Joseph's victory comes here in whatever he did as unto the Lord, whether it's going to be the tasking or the temptation or the trial at the end. But here's the key: godliness, contentment will only come through godliness. That's what Paul said to Timothy. And when we're living in the godly life, seeking after him, we will find this contentment. We'll be content with what he gives us, and we'll be pleased with that. And verse 6, thus he left all that he had in Joseph's hand and did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. We're being told, setting up the next part, that Potiphar didn't trust everything. I don't know anything about anything because I'm trusting you to take care of it. And then we read this, and the Lord puts it here for us. And Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. And so there was something that set him apart, that he was attractive. And so that's setting this up, that brings us to this next point as it plays together. And the second point, verse 7 through 19, of whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. May we bring God glory in our day-to-day activities. But may we bring him glory when the temptation comes and we stand. Lord, I know I'm facing a temptation right now. Next part's going to be a trial. I'll explain the difference between a temptation and a trial. Lord, this is heavy. This is fire. But Lord, right now, today, may I bring you glory in the midst of it. And sometimes we fight through it and we don't realize the victory is glory. That God is glorified because we withstood what the devil threw at us. The difference between a temptation and a trial, as we'll be told in James, is a temptation, Satan comes and throws it at us because God will never tempt us with evil. So when evil is presented against God's word, we know this is from the devil. But what we know from Job and we see through the scriptures is, but God allowed it through his gate. But there's a place, and I'm building on a purpose here, is that when I recognize where this is coming from, then I know how to fight it. So a temptation is evil, therefore it's from the devil, because God would never tempt us with evil to conform us. Now what a trial, God will put us into the fire to form and fashion us like he does with that sword that he's going to turn into that sharpened sword. And so when he ends up in prison, that's not a temptation, that's a trial that God's put him in. But here this temptation, it comes through this woman that comes before him. Verse 7, again, and it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph, and she said, lie with me. This boy, I shouldn't use the word boy. It's what happens when you get older. This young man, fine man. I got to be careful when I talk to my son because he'll always be my boy. But I have to remind, oh, you fine young man, I'm so proud of you. But this young man, he's on fire. He's sold out. Whatever he does for the glory of God, even in sweeping the floors as a slave. And you know what? Satan sees it. And Satan sees it in you. I can't let this continue. Nope. This is bad. He keeps going down this road. People are going to start asking, what's up with you? Who is this God I've never seen? Why do you have this attitude that you had? How can you be so mistreated and still have this countenance about you? And so here comes the devil like, I must do something about him. I know what I'll do, especially with a young man. I'm going to bring a woman. That's what I'll do. I'll bring this woman into his life to hopefully get him diverted, get him from keeping his eyes on the Lord. Now his eyes will be over here looking at her and these type of things. And Satan studies us, especially if you've been saved. I think it gets a little easier for him, if you got saved after a life in the world, he can look back at your life in the world and go, well, this, and this was their thing. And I always say the same thing. Satan always goes back to the well. This is what I know worked before. I'll just go back to the well. And I joke about stuff like that. I go, you can line up lines of cocaine before me all day, and I'll go, whatever. Not even a thought, a temptation. But he goes back and goes, well, okay, this is what always worked before. So he studies us, the wiles of the devil, his scheming that he's looking. I'm going to study because, maybe for you it's not going to be what we're seeing here before Joseph, whatever that may be. It might be money. It might be workforce pride. Oh man, I'm known as the top dog here. Maybe it is booze, alcohol. Maybe it's something along those lines. Maybe it's, just vain vanity type things. Well, whatever it is comes before him. And I got to look at him. I'm away from home. I've been mistreated. And it's obvious this marriage has its issues. I really think he could possibly go, maybe she is the one. And I just put that out there. She's not the one. God spoke. He knew it. And I speak to the young. If it's unequally yoked, it's not the one. It's not the one. Absolutely not the one. And if that person is in a marriage relationship, not the one. God never contradicts his word, ever. So here he comes, and I make this point before we move on here, or as we keep developing this. It's a temptation, because if it wasn't, the story would simply move in a different form. There is this temptation. There is something here that God brings for us to go, hey, this boy is just the epitome of, look at the victorious Christian life that I can give anyone, and no Bible, no church, no nothing, yet this boy could stand, so can you. I remove and dispel all the lies that the world has. You can live victorious just like Joseph. But I believe that it had to be a temptation for it to be a powerful story. And so there's this place that she's a temptation, can be considered tempting. History proves itself today. History would prove itself through all the historical writings that wealthy, powerful men had beautiful women. And it wasn't because of their looks. It was because they are wealthy, powerful men. I know what you're thinking. You're all going, then Ray, you must be a multimillionaire. I think this is a temptation. And I also want to dispel, there's a place that you can buy the lie, I don't understand how I can be a Christian and be tempted. Why am I still being tempted? How can, if I am a new creation, why and how can I find temptation? Because we live in this fallen world, in these fallen bodies, and if you need the conclusive proof that temptation continues, Jesus would say in this manner, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. It's a daily prayer. It's a model. And forgive us of our debt as we forgive our debtors daily. And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. If there wasn't temptation, Jesus would not have said, and lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from the evil one. Here we see the tying that the temptation comes from the evil one who tempts us with evil. God doesn't. The evil one does. So here we see this. Well, what do you do if you have stepped in, fallen in, walked in to the temptation? If we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Now, to sin meant you bit into the apple of the temptation. So once again, the conclusiveness is, if we could never be tempted, then we would never sin. And so we need to be on guard about that. And this is what I think the power of Joseph's life, back to whatever he did for the glory of God, even in the menial things. But here what Joseph would do is recognize what this is. We will read here shortly that he would not even allow himself to be around her. He will deny lying, no way, but he reshaped his whole life and being and movement to not even be around her. I think that says a lot about that. He recognizes the threat. And so by recognizing the threat first can bring us into what's next is the resist. Pastor Chuck said it so well. It has stuck with me for 35 years. Recognize, resist, rejoice. Recognize that this is a threat. If we do not recognize things as a threat, we won't take a guard against them. But when we recognize this is a threat, the devil's on the move, I need to respect this, then I move into a place of guarding. And James 4:7, therefore submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Here we see Joseph submitted to God in all that he did. 1 Peter 5:8, be sober. Hey, wake up, be alert, be vigilant. Put a guard around it because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Resist him steadfast in faith, knowing that the same sufferings are experienced by your brotherhood in the world. And here we come to this place of, if I'm fasting, and you put a bowl of kale in front of me, I'm not going to break my fast. It's just not going to happen. If you take that hot fudge sundae with the fudge layered in first, then the ice cream, then the fudge, then the whipped cream. Not that I like hot fudge sundaes. Then a couple cherries, then a little drizzle of whipped cream again. It's highly likely I'm going to fall in my fast. For it to be a temptation, it has to be tempting. And so here we see the power that I believe Joseph is. He recognized the threat. We're going to read. He changes his way that he comes in and out of the house. He knows this, and so he resists this, what's coming before him. And just a practical note as well. James 1:22, be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourself. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man observing his natural face in the mirror. For he observes himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, and not forgetful here, but a doer of the work, this one will be blessed in what he does. The point that I make about that is Psalm 46, verse 10, be still and know that I'm the Lord. Starting the day with the Lord, getting my marching orders, getting my peace, getting just settled that I'm going out into a world. Lord, whatever I do, I want to do it for your glory, and all these type of things. You know what I find? A couple hours later, I actually forget what my morning devotion was really the core of it. I kind of just go, what? Doesn't even think about it. So this is just a practical thing I do. Daniel chapter 6, verse 10. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, the setup, he went home, and in his upper room with his window open towards Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, and was his custom sincerely. 3 times a day he would get before the Lord. And so what I started doing is I take my devotional journal with me, and then I open it 3 times a day. I open it later around noonish when I take a little break, and I remind myself what God had spoken. I always have a verse that I want to meditate on, and so I take and I go, this was the verse that I was meditating. But as we say, as we look at the Lord's model prayer, part of it has confession in it. And it's great to go back in your morning time of prayer, confessing usually what was the day before of this didn't go so well, wasn't so strong, or this was the battle. Confess means to agree. This is what I struggled with. And I think there's a place that you come back to and remind yourself, this is a war that I'm under. And you remind yourself the devil and his wiles and his ways. Part of the prayer I'm always is watching, because we know, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. I need to be alert. I need to be watching. So I pull that paper out, and it reminds me. Then at the end of the evening, before I go to bed, I look at it again and go, well, how was this day? Were these things? And, recognize, resist, and the glory, rejoice. Lord, you brought me victory. Lord, you were with me. In your presence is fullness of joy, because I was with you and living with what you called me to. What a beautiful word that we see here. And I see this in the life of this young man who just, whatever he did for the glory of God. No church, no Bible, no support group. Verse 8 and 9, but he refused and said to his master's wife, look at my master, does not know what is with me in the house, and has committed all that he has into my hand. There is no one greater in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? Just a side note, married couples, obviously all the wealth that they had wasn't enough for the great marriage, to have a great marriage. There's something about this marriage that's off, whether it's him or her, a combination. We can look at her and go, she was way off, whatever this may be. And then she's looking for affirmation. I just kind of go for, and women don't think a man doesn't need it as well, that a compliment goes a long way. It doesn't have to be a compliment on your hair or this and that. Those are well, but just could be, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for taking care. Boy, that must have been hard putting up with those kids all day, and et cetera. But at least a compliment can just go so far. And then just make some time. How was your day? Here, it can be, we can look and go, something was off here. We know she's got issues, but who knows what. Maybe work is my life. I don't know. But here we see him, Joseph, no way. Can't do it. And there's no one greater. He's kept nothing back from me. Meaning he doesn't even know what food is put before him. Meaning he wouldn't even know. I think that's the key. He wouldn't even know. But Joseph knows. And then Joseph puts this in there in that, how could I do this against him? This guy, he's been good to me. How could I hurt him like this? And then, how could I do this to my Lord, who's been good? God's been so good to me. He sold me into slavery. He put me in a place that I didn't want to be, made me a slave. You see the sarcasm. And yet he is still all that he is. I couldn't do this against the Lord. I couldn't do this great wickedness. Oh, I wish to God that the church, I wish to God that pastors, I wish to God that the news would start calling wickedness again. And not just call it, news, but call it great wickedness. This would be great wickedness if I did this. But do you know what? As you're looking at this, how could I do this against him? This would destroy him. It will destroy you. I would totally ruin my witness, but I would actually make you think that you were something greater than my God, that I chose you over him. That would destroy you, lead you into the path of destruction. My witness would be ruined before you. I couldn't hurt this master who's been good to me and entrusted me with all these things. He doesn't even look after me. He trusts me so much. But how could I do this against the Lord? Do you see what he's doing? He is playing this out all the way through of what the destruction would be. And you know what? Army guys, I forget, it's your training manual. It says the way you train in peacetime is the way you will fight in wartime. You must say, in my training while I'm at peace, what will I do when faced with these things? And that's the morning devotion. That's writing these things. That's studying the Word is unto the Lord and these type of things. And you sit and go, this would be more than the moment. This would be destruction that goes forward and onward and onward and onward. He asked the question, how will this affect? And most people, when you talk to them who have an implosion in their life, rarely do they say, or let's just reverse it, most of them will say, man, I had no idea the destruction and the length of it. I was so wrapped in the moment. And there's this question of how will this affect? Maybe you're playing with some fire. Maybe you're dangling into some danger, whether it's in the workplace or with clicking online or places you just know you're not supposed to be. You need to ask yourself, how will this affect my family if I continue on? How will this affect my children? How will this affect my grandchildren? How will this affect my employment? How will this affect my ability to make a living? How will this affect my freedom? How will this affect my reputation? And then ultimately, as we see Joseph, how will this affect God's reputation? As David, you've given God's enemies reason to mock him. It's been said, and oh so well, it takes a passion to conquer a passion. And when you have a passion of Jesus Christ, there is no passion that can overtake you. Great saying, great word. Takes a passion to overcome a passion. Joseph's passion, his passion is for none other than the Lord himself. And then verse 10 goes on to say, so it was, as she spoke to Joseph day by day. This is a key. It doesn't just one moment. It's daily that he has to endure this, that he did not heed to her, to lie with her, making that clear. And notice he changed his way of his day, or to be with her. But it happened, well, verse 10, this is Joseph's wisdom. I always say the best way to remove temptation is to avoid it. This is not where I need to go. I shouldn't go down this hallway. I shouldn't go over to this coffee place. I don't need to be going on to this social media. Best way to remove temptation, avoid temptation, is simply to remove it, and that's what he does. But notice he is that it's daily. We don't know if this is 1 month, 6 months, 6 years that he's enduring this. And here's a word. As we look at the life of John the Baptist, the greatest preacher, the greatest man, other than Jesus, that we were told. And he was taken down, if you would, by a dancing girl. Not that he was enticed by it, but the King Herod was. And then ask him anything of you, and I'll give it to you, up to half the kingdom. I want John the Baptist's head on a platter. The point is, it says, and at an opportune time, on an opportune day, Mark 6:21, then an opportune day came when Herod on his birth. The opportune day and time, it was Satan's opportunity. He waited and he waited and he waited. And some of you are hunters, and you know the thing of hunting. Hunting is waiting for an opportune time, because hunting isn't built on multiple shots. Hunting is about one shot, and it's the kill shot. And Satan will wait and wait, the great hunter that he is, for that one opportune kill shot. And what do I want to say? He has patience. He waited and waited for his moment with John the Baptist, and he has one goal only. John 10:10, the thief does not come except to steal, kill, and destroy. If he can kill your body, he's happy with that, to shut you up. But I think more so, he'd love to steal and kill your reputation, because then your reputation of your destruction goes out for everyone else. Your kids, your grandkids, and it goes out and out. It destroys way more than just taking your body away. And so he waits and comes daily, and he's just waiting for this kill shot. And here he thinks he has it, verse 11 and 12. But it happened about this time when Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside, that she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. But he left his garment in his hand and fled and ran outside. She's planned this. She set up her moment. She knows this is his new rhythm. He makes sure he doesn't come in the house when it's just the two of us. He's got to do his duty, so he won't do it when there's witnesses. So I'm going to move them people this way. And so Satan will move all these pieces to set these type of things up. And this is what she's done. Probably dressed herself accordingly and all these type of things. And when he comes in, she's coming for the kill shot with him. And here's the beautiful word that the Lord gives us, is that, and the difference, Satan, when he brings a temptation, he will continually try to narrow your escape route. And part of it will be because every step narrows the path over and over. Satan, we know the temptation is he takes away the means of escape. But here's what the Lord promises us in 1 Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has overcome you except such as common to man. Once again, temptations are part of our life. That's why we're going to spend time on this passage. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you're able, but with the temptation will also make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it. And then 2 Timothy 2:22, flee also youthful lusts. He provides a way out. Joseph has a way out, and his way out are what my high school football coach used to say, quick feet or happy feet. That's what he'd say to us running back, quick feet or happy feet. And this is definitely for us as Christians, quick feet or happy feet. I got to beat feet. I got to get out of this place. I should not be in this situation. And I was reminded of a pastor some years ago, just a man of God. And I think there's a place you look at some men and you go, they're perfect. Women too. They're perfect. They probably never experienced temptation. They probably are immune to all of it. And this older man, pastor, serving the Lord, made the statement at a pastor's conference, a life of holiness means saying no to the flesh 10,000 times a day. 1 Peter 1:14, as obedient children, not conforming yourself to the former lust as in your ignorance, but as he who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct, because it is written, be holy, as I am. Holy means uncommon. Don't go the way of the world. Don't follow after these things. Be ye holy. And if Satan comes at you 10,000 times, then you come back 10,000 times. And if your flesh challenges you 10,000 times, you say no every time, however long it takes. And victory shall come day by day, one at a time. 13 through 14. And so it was, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, that she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, see, he has brought in to us a Hebrew to mock us. He came in to me to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And it happened when he heard that I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled and went outside. That's the second time his garment has been falsely used and accused of his situation that we see here. Isn't it interesting, though? Not a peep from the servants. None of them go, yep, I saw that in him. They're all quiet. There's a reason. And people are looking, going, I know him, I know her, I think I know where this story truly is. In verse 16 through 19, so she kept his garment with her until his master came home. Then she spoke with him with words like these, saying, the Hebrew servant whom you brought to us came into me to mock me. So it happened, as I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled outside. So it was, when his master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, saying, your servant did to me as this manner, that his anger was aroused. You see what she's doing? She's blaming him. It's your fault. You brought him here. She does what so many people will do, believers as well. She rehearses her story over and over. I'm going to rehearse my story till he comes home. I'm going to rehearse. She blame shifts, puts it on the husband, and then she's calling the other servants to rally. I'm going to rally all these people with my story. She just, of course, leaves out little pieces of the truth. And I think he's angry because he knows her. I think that's why he's angry. You put me in this place. And so here he is. He's going to end up in the trial, which brings us to our last point. Whatever you do, do it for the glory of God in trials. Trials are what God brings us into so that he might do this wonderful work in our lives. James 1:2, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience, but let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete and lacking nothing. God has a vision to fulfill. Through this man who was given this vision to follow and bring to pass Abraham, Isaac, Jacob will bring this great nation. So verse 20, we read, then Joseph's master took him, put him into prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in the prison. Note, I think this exceeds anything that he faced over all those days. I think this one of the greatest supreme trials, and maybe this speaks to someone today, is when you've done right, you've been faithful, and you end up still yet not delivered, and your trial continues. David, Goliath, slays the giant. The amazing thing about that is Israel's delivered into victory after the oppression of the Philistines. And you would think Joseph, and don't we all think, I did what was right. I stood and I battled and I fought and I came out victorious. I don't understand why I'm not being rewarded, if you would. Why I'm not being put further, lifted out of prison, lifted out of the slavery that I'm in as the Joseph relation. Instead, he ends up in prison. And I think one of the hardest supreme trials that you'll ever face, doing good and right and still not being delivered out of the moment, and when people bring false, slanderous accusations against you. How do you defend an accusation? You have to be right with the Lord, and you have to go, though you slay me, yet will I praise you. Regardless of what this situation is, I'm not going. And 1 Peter 2:19 speaks of that, by the way. For this is commendable if because of conscience towards God one endures grief, suffering wrongly. Okay, you blew it. You deserve the grief. For what credit is it if, when you are beaten for your faults, you take it patiently? But when you do good and suffer, if you take it patiently, this is commendable before God. For to this you were called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow. He just makes it clear. There's something deeper when you endure, even when you did what was right. Verse 21, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Sets us up into next week. This is amazing. He comes into the house as a slave. He's faithful, endures temptation year after year probably, comes out victorious, goes into prison, and if anyone could sulk and say, I'm done, here God puts him in and brings him this great opportunity, and Joseph just leans into it. This is contentment is not getting what I want, it's wanting what I get. This is what you gave me, this is what you want. And here's what I think the power of Joseph's life is. He never let go of his dream. He knew this is the vision that God gave, and he can't fail on what he said he was going to do. And therefore, whatever he has, I'm going to take it that you're doing a work and doing something in and through me. And so, isn't it amazing what we can endure when we're right with the Lord? When I know, you know what, Lord, I'm walking with you, I'm faithful, I'm obedient. Even though all these things may seem to be against me, I can endure it all because I know that you're with me. And here he is enduring because the presence of the Lord with him, even in the home, now in the prison. And we close verse 22 and 23. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, it was his doing. The keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. What an amazing young man. God has a calling. God has a plan. Satan is coming for a shot to take him down, but this young man endures through it as we look at these things. And I just find it so amazing. I've never been out of the pulpit 3 weeks in a row. That was tough. Down doing disaster relief in North Carolina, that was the plan. Then Pastor Yossi comes into town from Israel. Man, can't miss that opportunity. Then Pastor David cruising through on his way to Pakistan said, man, I can't miss that. But isn't it interesting? And Orlando did a great job in his teaching. I was here for Yossi and David. Isn't it interesting what their messages were? Let everything that you do for the glory of God. Romans 12:1-2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. Their message was just a living sacrifice. And I love how David ended his message last week. He took out a blank piece of paper and says, we always write our story. And again, if we look at Joseph, he would have never wrote this story. But there's this power as the living sacrifice where we have this blank sheet of paper and we hand it to the Lord and go, write your story in my life. I'm your living sacrifice. And I will do what you called me to do. And whatever I do, I'll do for your glory. In the tasking that you give me, in the temptations that arise and come daily, I'm going to give you glory in those things. And even when I enter into a trial, and maybe it's by innocence and not of my own doing, in the middle, I'm going to give you glory so that you might be glorified. And that's when the Lord takes us. We're more than an instrument and a vessel. We become a tool in his hand to shape and work in a lost and dying world. And then I love it. Like Joseph, we become this weapon that beats down and defeats all the lies of the world and all the lies of the devil and all the lies of the flesh, because we showed what God can do when we are in his hand and in his presence. Father, we bless you and we thank you for this word that you gave us. We see an amazing God with an amazing love that though maybe we don't understand all these things that are going on, we'll take your presence over any place in this world. Lord, all of us would rather be nowhere else except in your presence. And when we're in your presence, Lord, it's amazing what we can endure. It's amazing what we can do, because we know when we're right with you what we can overcome. And like Joseph, what a witness and what a story. And I pray that for us. I don't think anyone's immune from anything in this passage today, whether it's in the tasking of where you put us or the temptation of the lies that Satan wants to present to follow after, or just the trial of living godly lives in the midst of a fallen world. But you've got something that you're doing. You did it with this young man, and there's not one of us that you're not doing something with in our sphere that you've put us. Joseph couldn't reach Pasadena or Glen Burnie, but we can. And wherever you have us, the workplaces, the schoolyards, the ball field, we can. So, Lord, we thank you. Would you give your people, give us the power to come and overcome, and that whatever we do it for your glory. In your name, amen.